Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to check out this video on how to become a Certified Cisco Systems Instructor. I wasn't originally going to record something like this, but I posted recently an image of my certificate because I'd come up on my anniversary and renewed my CCSI, and I've been a CCSI for many, many years. And surprisingly, I got a lot of people requesting specific information on how they could become a CCSI. And in fact, a lot of people contacted me and were asking for that information. So I thought, you know, it would be a good idea to kind of put together a brief presentation that kind of talks about the program, what you need to do to accomplish the certification, what the benefit of that would be for you in the process of your certification career, and kind of just compile all of this information together. Now, I have been an instructor for many, many years. I started teaching classes in the mid-90s, actually. In fact, the very first class that I taught was a CCNA. And so I've always had a huge interest in teaching Cisco courses. My name is Scott Smith. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I am the president and CEO of thinQtank Global. We are a educational institution where we teach classes and training camps in all kinds of technologies and business sectors, including Cisco and CompTIA and ISC Squared and many, many other vendors. But I have always had a soft place in my heart for the Cisco certification training industry. I started to work as an engineer at NASA, working on Cisco systems and Cisco technology back in the mid-90s, or the late 90s, I should say. And then I went to work at Cisco as an engineer, so I have very strong ties to the Cisco community. So when I had the opportunity to become an authorized Cisco instructor, I jumped at that chance. Now, since then, I've also been involved in many, many other certification programs in CompTIA and ISC Squared, and I've invested quite a bit of my time in achieving and earning my Cisco certifications. So it's been kind of a love of mine to continue this and to spread this knowledge and this understanding of these different programs to the individuals that are interested in pursuing it for themselves. Now, I have invested a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's really been kind of a passion of mine to go through and earn all of these different certifications and just continue to learn as much as I can about this business and about this industry. My background is actually in engineering, electrical engineering and computer science to be specific, but immediately out of graduating from the university, I took a job as a network engineer, and I've never looked back since. So I've earned quite a few different certifications. These are some of the kind of notable certifications that I have. I have over 80 different active certifications in the IT industry, but again, I've always kind of focused my attention on the Cisco space and being a Cisco instructor. So when I had the opportunity to start my own Cisco Learning Partner program and become an authorized certified Cisco systems instructor, I jumped at that chance. So what I'd like to do is talk to you guys a little bit about this program. What is it about this program that makes it kind of unique in the industry? Why do people achieve or try to achieve this certification? And what do you expect to get out of it? And what can you expect to give back to the learning community by being a certified Cisco systems instructor? Now, believe it or not, this is actually one of the oldest certifications that Cisco has. It was even preceded the Cisco Certified Internetwork Expert certification. CCSI has been around since about 1992 or 93, just about the time when Cisco was becoming very popular and becoming a well-known industry leader in this business. There are actually three types of different Cisco instructors. There is the Cisco Certified Systems Instructor, a Cisco Certified Academy instructor, and there are a couple of subcategories to that particular certification. And then you have other independent trainers that have a breadth of knowledge and they're subject matter experts, but they're not officially tied to Cisco. And certainly there's nothing wrong with that, as long as the education is great and people are happy about what they're learning and achieving in the certification programs. There's a lot of great instructors out there. But the CCSI has kind of always been the echelon, if you will, of that authorized certified instructor mark that Cisco provides. As a CCSI, you're going to be working with an authorized Cisco learning partner, what we call a CLP, to teach Cisco authorized courses. Based on what Cisco's documentation states, is a CCSI is a brand ambassador, the cornerstone of the Cisco instructor-led training program and training business. So as a CCSI, you're going to be recognized in the training industry as one of the top tier educational providers in the Cisco space. How do I become a certified Cisco systems instructor? Well, the first thing that you have to do is you have to be sponsored or employed by an authorized Cisco learning partner. Now, that doesn't necessarily sound like an easy thing to do, but you would be surprised. In the industry, there are many, many learning partners that exist. You can go out to cisco.com and you can search for Cisco authorized learning partners, and you can find hundreds of partners around the globe that provide authorized training. Certainly we have some very large partners in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, and so on. Oftentimes, these learning partners love to contract specific instructors to teach different classes. They may not necessarily be employees of these organizations, but they are available to offer their training services and course curriculum development with these learning partners. But it's very important to become a CCSI. You have to do your research. You have to identify a Cisco learning partner that is going to be willing to sponsor you through this whole CCIE certification process. So my first recommendation would be to do as much research as you can to identify a Cisco learning partner that you may potentially have some synergy with. Approach them and say, hey, I'm looking to become a certified Cisco systems instructor. This is my background. This is my education. This is why I want to be an instructor. Would you guys be willing to sponsor me through the CCSI certification programming event? Now, we'll talk about what that program is all about throughout this presentation, what's required to participate in the program, and to successfully achieve your goal of getting through this particular program. But again, the first step, only sponsored CCSIs can deliver Cisco authorized training, and you can only become a CCSI if you're employed by an authorized Cisco learning partner. Again, it doesn't mean you have to be an actual employee. You just have to be sponsored by that organization, and that organization, of course, would like to have you as a resource to teach authorized learning programs for their particular organization, or to do course content development or whatever it might be. So that would be the first step. The second step is you have to have a valid CCNA certification. Obviously, we've seen a lot of changes over the past couple of months with the Cisco program, but the CCNA is still a standard and staple within the Cisco training community, so that's something that you're going to have to do. Lastly, you're going to have to attend a 2-day ICP event, what we call an Instructor Certification Program event. This is going to be a hands-on event, an interactive event in a very small environment, likely with, I think in my particular ICP event that I took in New York, there were only four individuals that were participating in that program. But the purpose of the event is to examine your capabilities and your skills to interact and engage in the classroom, to provide instruction in kind of a technical environment with hands-on exercises, practical educational skills, and so on. And you have to demonstrate your ability to organize and deliver valuable content in that type of environment. But the only way you can get into these ICP events is if your sponsor enrolls you. So again, we go back to step number one. you need to get some sort of a relationship or build a relationship with an authorized Cisco learning partner so that you can go through this particular program. Now, additionally, you have to, of course, achieve passing scores on day number 1, and we'll talk more about the details of the particular program as we move forward, but you have to achieve passing scores in that and show technical proficiency in a lab environment that is related to CCNA level material, and then you have to do in day number 2 some instructional assessments, right? You're going to have a program sponsor or a proctor that's going to be part of the program, most likely a CCIE, not necessarily a Cisco employee, but in a lot of cases it is. And they're going to evaluate your ability to deliver content in the classroom. Once you go through this program and you successfully achieve your CCSI certification, then you're going to have to be then you're required to purchase an annual kit membership. Now, I know what it costs me in the United States for this membership. I think it's pretty much the same around the globe. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But that sounds like kind of a bait and switch type thing, right? I just became a certified instructor and now I have to spend more money to buy the kit. Well, these kits are wonderful because they provide you digital access to all the content, including course administration guides, student learning guides, lab access, everything that you need to successfully deliver Cisco authorized learning programs and Cisco authorized training classes. So it's a really, really valuable tool. It is something you have to renew on an annual basis, and a lot of times the authorized learning partner will go ahead and purchase that for you because you're providing them value by being an authorized instructor under their umbrella, if you will. But it is still a very valuable tool. So why would I go through all this effort? Some of you might already be teaching Cisco classes. I know that a lot of people do teach online. They teach on YouTube and they teach in different classrooms, and they might say, well, why would I want to go through this process? Why can't I just continue to teach about routing and switching without going through this process? There are some benefits that you get for becoming CCSI certified. Number one, you can actually officially deliver Cisco authorized courses. And I've actually found that a lot of sponsoring organizations don't necessarily restrict you from working with other Cisco learning partners. Almost like you're a general contractor with a contractor's license and you can go out and work on different projects. So it could open up a lot of doors for the opportunity to engage with other learning partners as well, to travel the globe and teach these authorized courses. And if you become a well-known instructor in the industry, when we have several of those out there, you pretty much become kind of a commodity, if you will, but a very valuable commodity in that people will want you to deliver their particular training courses because customer satisfaction and quality learning is what everybody wants. In order to do that, obviously you have to be a CCSI. Once you are a CCSI, you're also going to get access to a very exclusive and private community forum with other CCSIs. And this is going to provide you the ability to engage with other authorized instructors from around the globe, bounce ideas off of those instructors, talk about changes in the Cisco community and the learning community, talk about, especially now with all these big changes that are occurring now, and really just kind of become a part of this very exclusive club, if you will, of these CCSI instructors. You're going to get access to labs if you want to prepare for a particular class. You're going to get access to digital content. You'll get discount prices on the Cisco Learning Store for lab access and digital content access so you can prepare for additional training opportunities. You can get certified in different areas within the Cisco space. Oftentimes, you might get called on. I've been called on a couple of different times by Cisco to help develop additional courseware or new courseware in the industry. I just did a project, in fact, working with another CCSI on the new CCIE security program with Cisco and developing that new training curriculum. So a lot of opportunities will come out of this certification that you might not normally think about as you're going through this process. The other thing that's very beneficial in this particular case is you're going to get access to all of the course content that you're certified and authorized to teach. I can go into my learning portal and I can log in with my account, and then based on my certifications and based on my qualifications, I have access to all of the courses that I'm authorized to teach. So I can brush up on some of the material. If new material gets published or changes in the material get published, I'm kind of one of the first individuals that gets to see that. So it's a really beneficial component of that. That's part of what that instructor kit provides you, is access to that information. Oftentimes you'll get invited to participate in course alphas, maybe do train the trainer events on WebEx or online, where you're kind of identified as a subject matter expert, and you have some new CCSIs that are coming on board and they would like to participate in teaching these new programs. So you will train them as part of that process as well. You get a support from all these other subject matter experts as well. There's a community, like I said, that you can reach out to. If you're about to teach a class, or if you've taught a class and now you've run into something that maybe stumped you, or you had a particular issue with a particular delivery, you can reach out to these other CCSIs and get valuable information and insight from people that have been doing this for a long time. You're going to get access to the CIMS portal as well. That's going to provide you the ability to manage your entire profile. What courses you're certified for, all of the metrics that matter, course evaluations that are completed, you can manage from that portal. You can actually get access to digital content and lab access from that portal as well, and pursue additional certifications through that portal as you continue to build on your Cisco knowledge and Cisco experience. In addition, by teaching authorized courses, Cisco will actually recognize you based on your customer satisfaction ratings for those deliveries. They will actually provide awards, annual awards, to the instructors that in specific regions or in specific verticals and technologies that have achieved a high amount of customer, a high level of customer satisfaction in their deliveries. And that's always kind of a little feather in your cap to demonstrate even more to your learning partner or to other learning partners that you are a high quality instructor, and you can essentially charge top dollar, if you will, for teaching these deliveries. So if you do become a CCSI, what are your responsibilities going to be? We talked about the membership kit, of course, purchasing that annual membership kit. It doesn't matter if you purchase it individually or if your learning partner who sponsors you purchases it, but it is required each year. You also have to maintain your active Cisco certifications. You're only going to be authorized to teach the courses that you actually are certified in. So you don't just simply get the whole catalog of Cisco courses, but it's quite simple actually. If I wanted to teach the new software-defined networking component for CCNP security, I take that specialization exam, I pass that specialization exam, and then I'm authorized to teach that course, and that content automatically shows up in my portal. So I can go and review the official course content, the course administration guide, the student guide, and I can participate in that program and start to teach that particular class. It used to be back in the day, and I remember this very specifically, that there were cut scores that you had to pass these exams by a certain score in order to be an authorized instructor. They've gotten rid of the cut score requirement, and you just simply have to pass the exams. But the cut scores were typically 20 to 30% higher than whatever the passing scores for a normal candidate would be. So that was always a little stressful, but thankfully they've gotten rid of that requirement, and you just simply have to pass the exams to be authorized to teach those particular classes. You obviously are required to teach classes for an authorized Cisco learning partner, and there's specific terms and conditions that you agree to when you become a CCSI, that you won't teach gray market classes, and you won't break any of the rules that Cisco's outlined as part of this exclusive community. All right. In addition, they just came up with this particular requirement. You have to deliver a minimum of 4 authorized courses per year. There's an exception to that rule if you're doing course development with Cisco, but you have to teach at least 4 authorized courses a year. Doesn't seem like a lot, and it really isn't actually. I mean, I teach probably about 20 or 30 classes a year, but it's definitely something that's new. They didn't used to have this minimum requirement. They had a lot of Cisco or certified Cisco systems instructors from the past that went through the certification process but haven't taught in many, many years. And obviously this technology changes. Even if your certifications are kept up to speed, you know, the classroom environments have changed. The blended learning environments are a lot different than they used to be. So Cisco wants to make sure that you're kind of active in the community and you're still out there teaching the classes. So what is this instructor certification program? Obviously it's intended for any candidate who wants to become a CCSI. The idea of the program is to assess your ability and demonstrate your ability and strong technical background, not only in your capabilities of doing the work, but also teaching the work. And that's a big component of this. The first day is doing, the first day of this 2-day event is doing, and the second day is teaching. So it's really important that you not only understand how to do these things, how to configure routers and switches and firewalls and whatever else you're going to be teaching on, but it's also important that you can deliver that content effectively so that students can take away value from the training events that you're in charge of. The assessment itself is a 2-day practical exam covering all aspects of what we call a synchronous classroom instruction. So the first day that I went into my program, I was sat down in front of a computer, and again, this was a very small group, only 4 individuals. I was sat down in front of my computer, and I was given CCNA level exercises that I had to complete, much like a CCIE lab exam, but it was on the computer for CCNA related stuff. And I had specific tasks that I had to complete with very little information about how to complete those tasks. And I was graded on different sections on how I completed those individual tasks. I had to score enough points in that first day to be allowed to go to the second day of the event. Now, I did mine many, many years ago, but I believe that the ICP program is pretty much the same these days. In fact, the documentation that I referenced on Cisco.com kind of described this whole process, and it sounded very familiar to me, so I think this is exactly how the process works now. But the second day is very interesting because the second day you are asked to teach a class. There are 2 topics you're going to have to teach, and we'll talk more about this later on, but you're going to be evaluated on how you deliver the content in the classroom. I mean, we're talking about what your dictation is, how you interact with the students. In my particular experience, the proctor that was actually proctoring the session was actually went through several different dynamics. He would ask very difficult questions. He would ask very simple questions. He would get confrontational, maybe, kind of act like a student that might be not so happy about the delivery of the content, and to see how you handled that particular type of environment. And overall, he would grade you, or she, in my case it was a he, but he would grade you on your ability to handle that particular process. So it was a very, very interesting environment. It was very, very enlightening, right? Because there were a lot of things that I did during the process of teaching that he pointed out that, hey, don't turn your back to the students, and make sure you interact with the students by using these types of engaging technologies and engaging techniques to interact with the students and so on. It was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. Now, to register for the event, you have to associate your Cisco Connection online account and your Cisco system certification number to the authorized learning partner that is going to sponsor you. That's number 1. The learning partner system admin is the one that has to enroll you in that ICP candidate program through the learning partner management system that they have access to. It doesn't matter really what the specifics are of that because you don't have any control over that process, but once you find a Cisco learning partner that's willing to sponsor you based on your qualifications and based on your interviews with them and your desire to teach for them or to teach in general, they're going to say, yes, we'll sponsor you. This is great. We would love to have you come on board and teach these classes for us in these different locations. Then they'll ask you to associate your Cisco ID and Cisco certification ID to them, because they're going to want to know what you're authorized to teach to start off. Assuming you go through the ICP program successfully, they're going to know, okay, this is what you can do right out the gate. Certainly CCNA is going to be one of those classes, because you already have to have a CCNA to be able to become a CCSI. And if you have other certification, that's beneficial as well, especially in advanced technologies like unified communications and data center. There's a huge need for those types of instructors out in the industry, and a lot of learning partners are looking for qualified individuals that are quality instructors that can teach those types of deliveries. Now, I did try to find out what a current ICP event costs. I mean, I haven't gone through this particular process myself in many, many, many years. And from what I could tell, and again, this may be region-based or may be geographically different, or the price may be different in different geographical areas, but as far as I could tell, that particular ICP event costs about $1,000. Now, seems like a lot of money, but in the end, based on what you're achieving and what you're getting out of this, it's really not that significant, right? I mean, even just one Cisco certification exam is $400. So overall, it's really not much more than maybe getting a CCNP level certification, only a few $100s more. And oftentimes the learning partner is going to invest that money in you anyway, because you've already demonstrated your ability to become a member of their team. And obviously, if they're sponsoring you, they want you to succeed in that goal. So oftentimes they'll pay for that price, that cost as well. All right. Now, I was able to find a specific ICP event schedule. These different ICP events don't happen very often. In fact, this is the entire schedule for the rest of the year. They are hosted around the globe, specifically by Cisco proctors. There are some independent events, but the one that I attended in New York was proctored by a Cisco employee. And the ICP candidate needs to most likely travel to a particular event. It's very unlikely that you're going to have an event in your specific area. And you're responsible, of course, for that travel cost and to get to that location. Now, again, your learning partner, the authorized learning partner that's sponsoring you, most likely would pay for this travel as well. But again, that's negotiable between you and that partner. Cisco provides all the necessary ICP preparation materials. They'll give you a blueprint. You're not going to go into this completely cold. They are going to, once you're registered for the event, you're going to get some study materials. You're going to get some pointers on how to prepare. And so you won't show up day one with no idea or no clue what to expect when you get into this program. All right, so these are just some examples. There's one in Egypt in July, one in the UK in August, in Japan and China in September, in the United States in September, and in Germany in October. Although that's a private class, a private event, I should say, you can still register for private events, but these seats are very, very limited. They're not putting 20 or 30 people through these individual programs. And the programs do get added as necessary. So if a particular event fills up, I'm not sure what the limit is or the cap for each of these events are, but like I said, mine had only 4 individuals. But if one event fills up, they'll most likely open up another event in the future, that might be in the same region or the same geographical area. So the details, like I was mentioning, it's a 2-day process for this ICP event. Day 1, you're going to do a full day of hands-on lab exercises. The hands-on lab exercises are not extremely challenging. They are CCNA level. So if you're pretty proficient in CCNA level configurations and troubleshooting and whatnot, you shouldn't have a problem with the event, but it can be pretty stressful. I know when I went through my day 1, I had been an engineer for several years at this point, and I was pretty involved in Cisco. I wasn't obviously as involved in the instructional side, but I was involved in Cisco quite a bit, and I found it pretty challenging. I mean, there were several components of the configuration that I didn't achieve high scores on, but overall my cut score, I made the cut score to make it to the second day. Obviously the purpose of this day one event is to test your knowledge, right? It's one thing to be able to teach content from a book, right? And to be able to read slides and kind of go through the motions, if you will. But Cisco wants an instructor that is active in the industry, that can think outside of the box, that can engage with students outside of the scope of what's in the class, because oftentimes you're going to be in the classroom and the student's going to ask you a question that's completely unrelated to the technology or the topic at the time, and they're going to want to know that you can kind of either find an answer for that student and provide something the following day, or handle that situation with your knowledge and your ability to demonstrate that knowledge through verbal communication, right? In fact, when I went through my process on day number 2, oftentimes the proctor would do that. He would ask off-topic questions, maybe slightly related to the topic at the time that we were discussing, but wanted to test my ability to move away from the slide, move away from the content, and discuss maybe real-world experience in configuration and troubleshooting, or just get an idea of what the depth of my knowledge was across the board in delivering this content. Now, I don't know, there was another individual in my group that didn't do too well in that part of the exercise, and he still achieved his CCSI. So I think it's somewhat subjective as to how they evaluate that second day process and what they do to get you through that program. But certainly it's going to be a very dynamic environment, and you have to be prepared for that. And that's what day 2 is, right? That's the evaluation module where you have to do presentations to demonstrate your ability to teach and deliver this content. So you have to prepare and teach one module from the CCNA course in front of a panel of experts. So they simulate a classroom environment. In my case, it wasn't really a panel of experts. The proctor was the expert. He was a CCIE and a Cisco employee. Nowadays, I think they have more individuals that participate as kind of a virtual classroom type of environment. You're asked to present 2 different presentations. They will record these presentations. They'll go back and review them. They might have some other folks within the program review them as well, so that it's not just one individual making the decision on whether or not you make it through the program. Interesting thing about this though, one of the presentations you get to choose, so you can prepare in advance and you can say, I'm going to teach on frame relay, or I'm going to teach on OSPF, and I'm going to knock it out of the park because I'm going to go through it multiple times and make sure that I'm well prepared to teach this particular topic. But the other presentation, they choose on the fly at the moment. So it could be anything from the CCNA content, and they're going to say, I want you to teach me about DMVPN, or I want you to teach me about software-defined networking, or I want you to teach me about programmability. So that can be a little bit challenging, right? Because you haven't had a chance to prepare in advance. Now, you will have access to the official curriculum, so you're not teaching just on a whiteboard. You are teaching from the course content, but again, you're not preparing in advance. So that's a pretty challenging component of that assessment process. All right, you can also deliver at least one of your presentations in the language of choice. So if English is not your primary language, maybe it's French or German or some other language, you have to arrange with them in advance, because they're going to have some individuals there that can speak that language, and you can deliver that content in that language if you choose. All right, what are they assessing you on? At this point, they're mostly assessing you on how you deliver the content. Not that you know the content. Certainly that's always going to be part of it. But they want to assess you on how you can actually deliver the content, how you interact with the students, how you engage with the students, your physical characteristics, how the way that you keep the classroom engaged, and the way that you utilize different presentation techniques, whether it's a physical demonstration on a command line interface, whether it's a whiteboard demonstration, slides that you're annotating on, and so on. When I did my particular event, they wanted to see kind of all different aspects. How did I work on a whiteboard? How did I work with the course content? How did I work in demonstrating a lab or demonstrating a technical exercise? And also, how did I speak to the students when they asked a question, especially if it was a particularly difficult question? I remember it was very funny because I was in the room when the other gentleman, there were 4 of us originally in the program. Two of the folks didn't make it past the first day. So there were only 2 of us in the second day. And I had gone first, and I've gone through my presentation. I had already been teaching classes for about 2 or 3 years at this point as one of those non-affiliated instructors. So I felt pretty comfortable in the classroom. But this individual had never taught in the classroom, and there was an interaction that he had with the proctor, where the proctor kind of called him out on a couple of things and said, that's not correct. This is the way it is, and believe it or not, that actually happens in the classroom from time to time. And rather than kind of engaging with that individual and saying, I see why you would say that this is that way. This is my perspective. Let's go ahead and talk about it. The candidate got very defensive and was like, well, a student's never going to talk to me like that in the classroom. And having taught myself, I said, well, no, they will. It happens from time to time. So they're not just looking that you know the knowledge and that you can recite information on a slide. They want to know how you manage the classroom, how you manage not only compliant and happy students, but non-compliant and disgruntled students as well. It's a very important concept. All right. Now, what about this CCI membership kit? There are several different things that are actually included in this kit, which are really valuable for you to prepare for content that you're going to deliver. There, of course, are the slides, the actual slides that go with the class. You'll get those through some sort of secure method like LockLizard or RM, and you can download those slides and access them from your computer and use those as your presentation slides in the classes. You'll get digital access to the student learning guide, which is essentially the courseware. You'll get access to the course administration guide, which is really important because it describes exactly how the class is supposed to run. What are you supposed to cover on day 1, on day 2, on day 3? How much time should you allocate for each of the practical exercises, the discovery labs, and so on? How the classroom should be set up, how the labs are set up. Basically, it just describes essentially how the delivery is supposed to happen. So it's really, really useful in preparing for these deliveries. And then, of course, any supporting files or whatever that you need to deliver the course. In the United States, and I don't know if this is the price globally, but in the United States, that kit costs $500 for the premium kit. Now, the premium kit's going to give you access to any associate level courses that you're authorized for, any professional level courses you're authorized for, and any specialized courses that you're authorized for. I think right now I'm authorized for 75 different classes. So I've collected a few certifications over the years, but and like I said, you're only going to get authorization for the classes that you're actively certified in. But it's still a very valuable tool. I use it all the time. All right, what are the certification teaching requirements? Each course has to be delivered and evaluated with something called metrics that matter. So every time you teach a class, the students are required to fill out an evaluation, and Cisco will monitor those evaluations, and you have to maintain an overall score or an average score of about 4.33 out of 5 across the board, across all the classes that you teach. Now, certainly, you might run into a situation where one student doesn't feel that they got the value out of the course that the other students did, so you're going to have some low scores and you're going to have some medium scores and high scores. But I think you'll find that overall, if you're delivering authorized content and you're good at what you do, these scores shouldn't be difficult to achieve. And again, it's based on deliveries throughout the year. All right, it's not if you get below a 4.33 on average in one class, all of a sudden you're no longer authorized to teach that class. You also have to meet the course requirements, meaning that you have to pass the associated certification exam. You have to maintain those active certifications. Oftentimes too, Cisco will come up with different versions of the course. I remember when they moved from one version of CCNA to the next version of CCNA, when they came up with a completely different exam number, I would have to, even though my CCNA was valid, I would have to go and take the new version of the exam because they want to test my knowledge on the new content. Most certified individuals don't have to do that, right? You can continue to renew certifications for years and years and years by taking other certification exams. So that was a bit of a challenge. It still is, obviously. They still have that same requirement. So for me to teach Encore, for example, CCNP Enterprise Core, even though I have an active CCNP route switch and it became a CCNP Enterprise Core, I was required to take that Enterprise Core exam because it was a completely different set of criteria, a completely different exam from the traditional route switch and T-shoot exams that I took when I did my CCNP. All right? Now, they're not as strict on that as they used to be. Sometimes they will just kind of, count some previous exam towards the new exam, especially if you're grandfathered in and the certification kind of rolls over. So I was a little bit worried when this big change happened on February 23rd that all these different CCNAs that I have and all the CCNPs that I have, I would have to kind of start over because to be an authorized instructor. But thankfully, when that day flipped, I logged into my portal and I saw all these new classes that I was authorized for based on my active certification. So that was good. I was very thankful for that. All right. Once you meet the criteria, and this is the great thing about this as well, you don't have to do anything. You pass the exam. The next day, or maybe 2 days later, you log into your portal and the course content is there. And you're now authorized to teach that particular course. Your learning partner will be aware of that, and of course you can now advertise that to any learning partner that you're engaged with or that you're working for. All right? The courses are available in your CIMS portal once the courses are authorized. And like I said, in order to maintain your CCSI, you have to deliver at least 4 classes in a 12-month period. If you're doing course development, like I said, and this has to be pre-approved by Cisco, you can't just say, hey, I'm writing a new book. That doesn't count. It has to be something that's authorized by Cisco. Then you can forgo 2 of those courses and only have to teach 2 courses per year. All right. You have to maintain an overall minimum customer satisfaction score of 4.33. And you can actively monitor that. Every class I teach, I go back and I review all of the metrics that matter comments and all the metrics that matter evaluations to make sure that there aren't any issues that I need to address, to make sure that I'm taking care of business, if you will, to maintain that satisfaction in the classroom. All right. So this is the CCSI management portal that I mentioned. You can see here there's 73 different certifications I have. I can teach 38 different classes. We can access the CCSI forum from here, your certification tracking system. This is where you can download your course content, your slides, the Learning Network portal, your network space where you can get access to all of your digital content, if you will, and your instructor kit and metrics that matter for your course evaluation. So it's nice. Everything is kind of concise and included in one portal, which is really, really helpful for you to manage this, your certification, and to maintain it as you go through the process. So I know it's a short presentation, but hopefully this answers a lot of questions that you might have about this particular program. Certainly, if you want, you can reach out to me. I'm going to post this on various social media platforms as well as on our YouTube channel and our social media feeds as well. And I will create a PDF of this presentation as well and post that for access so that you guys can reference the links that are contained in the document. And again, if you have any questions or any comments, any feedback, feel free. I'll be happy to add an additional video or maybe update this video if there are some additional comments or questions that people have. And hopefully we'll see you guys in another lesson and another information delivery session later on down the road. Good luck. Hopefully you guys find this useful and you'll get your CCSI this year.